Pond, it's 9:30.
I think it's working right. Interesting.
Pond.
Hello?
Tyreen, I'd like to go ahead and start the Planning and Capital Programs Committee meeting. Tyreen, can you take roll?
Yes, sir. Roberta Abdul Salam,
Present.
Robbie Ash, Stacy Blakely,
Present.
Jim Durrett,
Present.
William Floyd, Roderick Frierson,
Present.
Brian Glover, Frida Hartage,
Present.
Russell McMurray,
Present.
Al Pond,
Present.
Catherine Powers, Rita Scott,
Present.
Reginald Snyder,
Present.
Christopher Tomlinson, Thomas Worthy. Mr. Pond, there are 9 board members present.
All right, thank you. The first order on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Could I have a motion of second, please, for approval of the minutes?
Move approval, Jim.
Hartage seconds.
Okay, motion made by Durrett, a second by Hartage. Are there any abstentions? Are there any no votes? If not, the motion passes. The next item that requires a board action is authorization for the award of a contract for bus lifts remanufacturing. Presenting that will be Sean Thomas.
Good morning, Chairman Pond, Mr. Parker, Mr. Rucker, and esteemed Planning and Capital Programs Committee members. My name is Sean Thomas, the Acting Director of Facilities, and I would like to begin by thanking you for your time and consideration for allowing me to speak with you today. If I may, I would like to bring your attention to agenda item number 2, the resolution authorizing the award of contract IFB 47090. And this is for the rehabilitation of bus lifts and flooring surfaces. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the objective of this solicitation is to continuously improve upon the state of good repair of the authority's bus lift systems. And we also feel like this supports improving the availability of our fleet of 500 plus buses, as well as positioning the authority as an employer of choice among some of the skilled trades persons that repair this equipment. And this morning, I'm going to give an overview of the equipment, and then I'm going to give some results of one of our recent condition assessments of this equipment. And I'm going to also provide an overview of the tasks within this contract, and then an analysis of the solicitation, and then finally recommendation. Next slide. So as an equipment overview, here in these images you can see some before and after pictures of these lifts. This is Perry at the top left and Laredo at the top right, and there at the bottom you see some of the after images of a smaller effort that we did approximately 3 years ago. And for this, we basically targeted the largest group of this type of equipment, and these lifts have been in service for over 25 years, and they have surpassed their expected useful life, which is about 20 years. And for us, we think it's a little bit shorter because of our facilities being 24/7, 365, and us having mechanics work on this equipment around the clock. So, but this equipment has proven durable and reliable over those years. So that's why we're looking to award this contract to remanufacture 12 of these lifts at two facilities. Next slide. So this condition assessment shows some of the key failure points which were of concern for us, and I feel like it's important to note too that the average weight of the buses that support that these lifts support is approximately 30,000 pounds. So identifying and addressing some of these key critical failure points of each unit was basically what we used to prioritize which lifts that we would include in this solicitation. Next slide, please. So the tasks within this contract are basically split into two categories, and the first category is Group A for the lift rehabilitation, and again, that's gonna rehab 12 of the approximately 30 parallelogram lifts, and that's at 2 different garages, and it'll be phased to minimize disruption to the bus operations. And then Group B will be the flooring rehabilitation, and that's basically to help us to ensure the durability and effectiveness of some of these shop surfaces. And again, those are the 2 tasks that this solicitation was split into. Next slide, please. So as far as the bid timeline, this solicitation was advertised in September 2020, and we chose to solicit for 2 separately awardable tasks, and the bid deadline was established as October of 2020. And prior to that bid deadline, we received 1 bid for Group A task, which was the lift rehabilitation portion, and 5 bids for the Group B task, which was the flooring rehabilitation. And I think it's important to note that there was also an independent audit of that single bid for the lift portion, which the bid was deemed to be fair and reasonable. So next slide, please. So as an analysis of the award, again, the IFB 47090, we're seeking to award to EQ Renew Incorporated for an amount of $1,090,860. And this is going to be for a 2-year term. And there was a DBE goal of 7% established. And the awardee identified multiple DBE firms and separate tasks to meet that goal. And those tasks were kind of split out among trucking, surface preparation for the shop flooring, and supplying the flooring products. So we're excited about the fact that there was a variety of participation to meet that goal. So, therefore, I respectfully request authorization to award IFB 47090 to EQ Renew for the remanufacture of bus lifts and flooring surfaces. Thank you.
Could I get a motion and a second for this action item?
Move approval, Durrett.
Hardy, just second.
Jim Durrett made a motion for approval. I did not hear the second. Who was that with?
That was Hardage.
Hardage, second. All right, are there any questions? Are there any discussions? I hear none, so I will go ahead and call the question. First of all, are there any abstentions? Are there any no votes? The action item passes by unanimous vote. Thank you. The next item is a resolution authorizing the disposal of easements to DeKalb County for both permanent and temporary easements. I'd like to call on Robin Boyd, Director of Real Estate, to present this.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman Pond, Vice Chairman Floyd, Mr. Parker, Mr. Rucker, members of the committee. This resolution is for work that DeKalb County is replacing most of their sewer infrastructure. And so this is for, if you can go to the next slide, please. The location of this easement, and there are a temporary construction easement and then permanent easements underground, are for sewer just north of the station, behind the Indian Creek Station. And if you could go to the next slide. The amount of the disposal is $6,100. And it's a 10-foot wide sewer easement. And again, it would be underground, so it doesn't do any interference with the station. And it was determined that we didn't need this parcel underground anymore. There is federal interest, 75%, and the FTA has given us approval already. And so if you could go back to the first slide for me, please. So we request the very first slide. Okay. So the resolution is authorizing the disposal of easements to DeKalb County for permanent and temporary easement rights for the sewer project at 3923 and 3941 Durham Park Road, Stone Mountain, DeKalb County, Georgia, parcel C 122 12002D. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
I'll move approval of the resolution.
Approval by Durrett. Do I have a second?
Second by Frierson.
Second by Frierson. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. The work that's being done there, are they currently doing now? Because I see a lot of trucks in that area. DeKalb County is doing something behind the Indian Creek Station. Is that all part of that project you're talking about?
It is, and they are doing the work. They jumped ahead of us.
Okay, all right. And then I also noticed that so that the work that they're doing, make sure I'm clear, is that a sewer line they're replacing, or is that water drainage that's run underneath their property?
Sewer.
Sewer,
It's
okay.
for the
all right.
sewer improvement project.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any discussion? Not, I'll call the question. Are there any abstentions? Are there any no votes? Not, the resolution passes unanimously. The next item, the fourth item on the agenda, is a resolution authorizing approval of the sale of MARTA parcel Q32-198, which is both the simple and permanent easement, to GDOT. Robin Boyd will make that presentation.
Yes. Okay, if you could go to the next slide, please. This is a drawing showing, so the red line and the yellow line, the right of way, they will be fee. They'll be sold in fee to GDOT, and the orange will be a permanent easement. And if you can go to the next slide also. This is more of a 3D modeling of it, but it will go underneath of the rail, the MARTA rail. And you can see it's just northeast of the AT&T deck at the Doraville station. So if you could go to the next slide, please. This, for the fair market value of these parcels, is $50,570. And there would be a fee simple right of way for 1,011 square feet, and then a permanent easement of 1,914 square feet. And the limited access easement is also fee, and that's just a linear line, about 205 feet long. We do no longer need this parcel. There was a Verizon tower that we had a ground lease on that location, but GDOT relocated that tower at their expense, and MARTA still holds the ground lease. It didn't affect us at all, and that was an arrangement that GDOT made with Verizon, but MARTA will still collect that ground rent. There is FTA interest, 66%, and we have received FTA approval. And are there any questions?
I'll move approval of the resolution.
Hardy, second.
Al, you're muted.
Thank you. Approval by Dirt, second by Hardage. Are there any questions or discussion for this issue?
You couldn't squeeze any more money out of Russell?
He's got lots of it, I hear.
And we haven't got ahead of you on this one either.
All right, any other questions? Not, I'll call the question. Are there any abstentions? Are there any no votes? If not, the resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Are there any other matters to come before this committee?
Chairman, this is Jeff Parker. Can I just mention something quickly?
Certainly.
Yeah, we are, as everyone on the board is aware, we continue to evaluate the essential bus service. We are at a point where multiple improvements into safety improvements have been made within the bus, including the ventilation. Bipolar ionization is currently being installed. This was a project that the board approved several months ago, and we're about a month away from installing that on all of our equipment. We have shields installed on all of the buses. We also have masks available to our customers. So we're doing some pretty significant evaluation of the future changes to the essential service and adding bus routes back. And I just raised this. We haven't kind of finalized our decision, but over the next couple of days, we'll be reaching out to the board members to give you a heads up about what our plan is, in advance of the announcement. I think we'll be sharing that announcement because I anticipate a lot of questions at the upcoming jurisdictional briefing. So more to come on this, but we will be in contact with you over the next several days. So thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Parker? Are there any other matters to come before this committee? If not, we'll adjourn the meeting. And I think the Operations and Safety Committee is next.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pond. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to be hopefully temporarily sitting in for Mr. Thomas this morning. So let me go ahead and get started. Do we need to call the roll again? Have we had anybody else join?
Yes, we should call the roll.
All right, if you'll do so.
Roberta Abdul Salam,
Present.
Bobby Ash, Stacey Blakely, Jim Durrett,
Present.
William Floyd, Roderick Frierson,
Present.
Brian Glover, Rita Hardage,
Present.
Russell McMurray,
Present.
Al Pond,
Present.
Catherine Powers, Rita Scott,
Present.
Reginald Snyder,
Present.
Christopher Tomlinson, Thomas Worthy. 8 board members present.
Thank you.
This is Stacey Blakely. My apologies, I couldn't come off of mute.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. At this time, we would like to get approval of the minutes of the January 28th meeting of Operations and Safety Committee.
Move approval, Jim.
This is Hardage, I second.
Thank you. Are there any questions at this time? If not, we'll move on to the vote. Are there any abstentions? Are there any no votes? Good. Then the minutes of the January 28th meeting are approved. First up, we'll have a briefing this morning, mobility update by Peter Bruno, the Acting Director of Mobility. Peter, if you're ready.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Vice Chair Abdul Salam, members of the Operations and Safety Committee, Mr. Parker, and Mr. Greenwood. It is my pleasure to provide you with this Office of Mobility update. Next slide. I'd like to begin with a look at the past 12 months of ridership. As you can see, at the time of the governor's public health state of emergency, mobility ridership significantly decreased. In the late spring and early summer, ridership increased somewhat slightly. However, as of the last week of January, mobility ridership was still down by 44%. At this time, our peak is roughly 7,500 riders a week, compared to 12,500 a week before the pandemic. Next slide. Although we are serving less customers, the team nonetheless continues to improve our business processes, building a strong foundation for when the service returns back to normal levels. Next slide. Some of our business process improvements are highlighted here. We have updated a compliance checking manual, including a contract terms matrix that notes contract element with frequency for compliance. Our centralized dispatch and scheduling program will bring a state of consistency and standardization to how customers are served and how trips are delivered. Our on-time performance sustainment plan, developed in collaboration with our providers, has introduced industry best practices, and we've seen improvements. Requiring scheduling to customer demand has ensured each trip reserved is scheduled and delivered. And finally, we've been leveraging technology tools available to us. The Power BI dashboard provides real-time monitoring of the service, allowing for quick review and quick decision-making to correct service issues. The FA Suite transportation module is now being used to record a daily dispatch log, so we can review past trends and apply corrective actions where needed. Next slide. Through some critical and key accomplishments over the past 12 months, we continue to move mobility forward. Next slide. At the end of December, we successfully launched an online eligibility application process. This has been something that our board members and our customers have asked me for some time. And working with our partners in IT, this went live on December 22nd. Our objective is for those that can, they will see a reduction in the effort and the time to prepare and submit an application. For our eligibility application review team, reviewing the application in an email will accelerate processing and determination. Since January, we have tackled the eligibility backlog and cleared 317 certification applications, 136 determination letters have been sent out, and over 610 customer records have been audited and cleaned. Roughly 99% of our fleet is now outfitted with the GPS needle point ionization units. We've got 2 units that are continue to be at vendors. However, suffice to say, every vehicle during peak and off-peak revenue service is equipped with a GPS needle point unit. This health safety measure will greatly benefit our customers and employees alike. Our cross-training program between reservation agents and eligibility staff has allowed us to provide resources where they are most needed at critical times. As a result of the on-time performance sustainment plan, we realized a 97.8 on-time performance in the month of January. And earlier this month, the mobility team provided TR4 shutdown support so our customers could complete their trips uninterrupted. Move to the next slide, please. Looking at the first 6 months of FY21 key performance indicators, we are trending favorably. Next slide. Our on-time performance for the first 6 months of FY21 continued to trend upward. In December, we reached 95.27%, and in January, we did even better. Next slide. Next slide, please. Sorry, here you go. Our revenue hours continue to trend upward as well. And our trips are matching the revenue hours favorably upward. We reached a peak of 30,000 in October. Next slide. And next. Next slide, please. Our mean distance between failure, we continue to see positive results here, primarily due to the introduction of 138 new vans between July and December of 2019. We continue to well surpass the 15,000 mile target. Next slide. Our passengers, we continue to see return to the service, although not near the pre-pandemic levels. In October, we reached a high of 35,000. Next slide. And our reservation hold times continues to perform very well, below the standard of 120 seconds. We're averaging roughly 15 seconds in the queue. Next slide. And finally, I'd like to just briefly discuss what's next for mobility. We will continue our compliance checking of our providers to be sure they are delivering to MARTA standards. We will be reviewing the first-year performance of our contractor GTS. As you know, they're operating out of the Hamilton garage and serving roughly 1/3 of our mobility customers. The team and other MARTA departments will be fully engaged in the First Transit Brady mobilization, making sure the turnover between MV and First Transit is seamless and smooth without interruption to our customers. We will be presenting the centralized dispatch scheduling contract recommendation to you today. Through some of the tools that our recommended awardee has proposed, this program has the potential to greatly enhance and improve our customer experience. And finally, in the near future, we will be bringing the eligibility assessment contract recommendation to you for review. This concludes my presentation. Turning it back to you, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Are there any questions?
Not a question, but a suggestion, Jeff. Since we have new members on the board, and for many of us existing members, it might be a good idea to have a briefing soon on the court order related to our delivery of mobility service to help us understand what we're required to do and how we are performing against that.
Sure, we can definitely do that, and I think what you'll see when we do it is that we've made significant progress in meeting and exceeding those expectations that were, I don't know, Liz, how old is the court order? It's several years.
It's actually over 15 years old now. So
yeah,
we have done numerous things, and several of the requirements in the initial order have now been dismissed. So we can certainly do a briefing on that.
Sure. We'll take care of that. Good suggestion.
Very good. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda. Again, Mr. Bruno will be presenting a resolution authorizing the award of a contract for the Mobility Centralized Scheduling and Dispatching Services, RFP 46865. Mr. Bruno.
Good morning, Vice Chair Abdul Salam, members of the Operations Safety Committee, Mr. Parker, and Mr. Greenwood. I'm here to present a resolution authorizing the General Manager, CEO, or his delegate to enter into a contract for Mobility Centralized Scheduling Dispatch Services, RFP 46865 with Transdev Services, Inc. Next slide. The business purposes of this proposed contract is to support the mobility operations and maintenance providers through the provision of scheduling services, dispatching services, administrative support such as performance reporting, and quality management. The successful proponent will work closely with MARTA Mobility for applying a consistent, standardized approach to delivering service. Next slide. Transdev has extensive experience dispatching and scheduling paratransit service for multiple providers. As you can see from this chart, in cities like Detroit, Pittsburgh, Boston, and Oakland, they manage multiple providers with hundreds of thousands of annual trips. Considering MARTA's current operations at Brady and Hamilton garages and a potential future third garage in a northwest sector of the service area, Transdev is well positioned to support the authority's multiple provider mobility operations. Next slide. Taking a moment to discuss Transdev transit service management approach. This screenshot of the dispatch control center graphically highlights trips in the right corner, which are behind schedule or in danger of becoming behind schedule, affording the opportunity to recover on-time service for our customers. Transdev uses this data to scale staffing, review historical trends, assess performance targets, and mitigate external factors such as weather or traffic. Next slide. This next screen within the dispatch control center highlights the exact location where the trip is to be dropped off or picked up, noted by the yellow bar. The dispatcher can simply redirect the operator to the proper location by visually seeing that proper location and through GPS directing the driver. Next slide. And finally, Transdev will be introducing a smartphone-based trip status application for our customers who have a smartphone. As always, the traditional ETA phone line, monitored by agents 24/7, will be available to handle customer calls. This smartphone application has the potential to put a higher degree of independence into the hands of our customers. I'd like to move now to the agenda report. Next slide. This RFP was advertised on November 18th, November 25th, December 4th, and December 11th. 61 firms secured the solicitation. On January 21st, 3 proposals were received: Transdev, Maruti Mobility Management, and Trusted Hands Senior Care, LLC. The SEC determined it's in the best interest of MARTA to enter into negotiation with Transdev. The price is determined to be fair and reasonable based on the independent cost estimate. The proposal price reflects an approximate year-over-year 6% increase in cost above the current contract price adjusted for inflation. TBE participation is 26%, and Transdev plan aligns with MARTA's requirement. The base term will equal 3 years at $7,912,337.91. The option term equates to 5 one-year options at $16,915,227.84. This results in a total local funding amount of $24,827,565.75. I am requesting your approval of this resolution authorizing the general manager, CEO, or his delegate to enter into a contract for mobility centralized scheduling and dispatching services, RFP 46865, with Transdev Services, Inc. That concludes my presentation. Turning it back to you, Vice Chair.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve?
This is Hardage. I move to approve.
Pond, second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion at this time? Any
Madam
questions?
Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I believe I recall that when I reviewed the background information that Transdev scored the second highest. And was it Maruti that scored the highest? And Transdev's cost was also more than Maruti. So I'm wondering why the committee is recommending that we go with Transdev. Or correct me if I'm recalling it wrong.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes, I'd like to turn that over to Mr. Hunt or Ms. O'Neill, or Ms. Holland.
If Peter, if you'd like, I can address that. I think that this was an RFP, so it was not just based on price as opposed to an IFP. And the technical scoring portion of TransDev proposals far outweighed Maruti's, and it was really the cost proposal that the Maruti, kind of that's where they got the majority of their complaints. However, in reviewing it, it was determined that the cost differential was so great that they the services that just didn't seem as if they would be capable of providing the services that MARTA was requesting for that cost.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Rod Frierson.
Go ahead, sir.
Service. It says that they're, how are they planning to meet the DBE goal? I understand that they're going to, but I wasn't quite sure. Are there some specifics on how they're going to meet that DBE goal?
Mr. Frierson, this is Paula Nash. I can answer that. They are using a company called Vector, which is a staffing company, and that is how they're planning to meet the DBE goal through staffing. And they've actually estimated that it will be almost as much as 60% as opposed to the 26% that we're requiring, but it'll be through staffing efforts.
Okay, and thank you. And then my next question is, so they're going to be monitoring this system, or the performances of the vehicles, or will MARTA staff be doing that in relationship with them?
I can answer that, sir.
Yeah.
TransDev will be providing the scheduling and dispatching services and ETA services for both First Transit come May and then GTS. So the oversight team will be monitoring TransDev dispatch and scheduling and their provision of service. This is a very key role, developing a proper and sound schedule to make sure every trip is served, and to monitor the on-street service is a very key and critical element of delivering mobility service.
Thank you.
Mr. Frierson, if I may, I'd just like to add that one of the things that I liked about this was the approach that they did use for DBE, because if you look at the outline, it's very broad, and it actually lists females, African Americans, whatever the breakdown is, it's already listed. And as Ms. Nash just said, it seems like they might be on target to actually exceed what they have in the proposal.
Vice Chair, this is
Chair,
Jeff Parker.
I have a question.
Okay, let me get Mr. Park, and then we'll come back to you, Rita.
No, let the board members ask questions first, if that's okay, and then I do want to mention something.
Ms. Scott, go ahead.
Just in regards to the meeting the DBE expectations via staffing, are we to understand that is employing temporary employees?
Do you want me to address that? Sorry. Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, this is Paula. So, and Peter, you can jump in here. You may know more. They will be, I don't know that they will all be temporary. They will work for the staffing company, but the staffing company will fill the positions, do the background checks and information in assisting the prime in getting those positions filled.
That's correct. Vector will do the recruitment. They'll do the screening, the interviewing, and so forth, and they'll actually manage the onboarding of that employee. And then that employee will go to Brady and become part of the TransDev team, who will then train that employee and so forth.
So what is there, I guess my question is, at this time, because the expectation is to fulfill the DBE requirement with staffing, where are they at with their actual employees? Do we know?
You mean with the TransDev employees, Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if Mr. Parker can answer that. Somebody else had some insight on that.
This is Jeff. So it's my understanding that the model that they have proposed to use is that as opposed to TransDev hiring all of the employees directly and identifying some subsection of the work that needs to be done to meet a DBE requirement. What they're doing is they have entered into, contractual relationship with Vector, and Vector will be hiring staff, and TransDev will be supporting those employees that are hired through this firm, Vector, providing training, providing management oversight when they're working, and those employees will work in a real integrated way in terms of providing the services. This is work that people will need to get trained on the reservation the scheduling system. I misspoke when I said reservations, the scheduling system. So we don't see this as a turning over temporary employees like you might, like a temp agency would typically do, where these are temporary short-term assignments. We see these are long-term assignments for, multiple years within the, the length of the contract. So.
Thank you. Is there any other unreadiness, discussions, or questions?
Just if there isn't any, I would like to share one item, Vice Chair.
Mr. Parker, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to point out and express my appreciation to the MARTA staff around this significant turnaround and strides that they have made meeting the DBE requirements. So if we think back to 3+ years ago when MV was largely providing all of these services, MV was struggling to get a, sometimes meet 5-10% of the of DBE participation against a 20% goal. So now when you look at this contract with a goal of approaching 30% and a commitment to exceed that, when you look at the contract once First Transit takes over, a commitment to meet, I believe that's a 30% DBE participation goal, and we expect that they will meet or exceed that. And then the contract we have with GTS, that's 100% DBE. We are probably, when you add all that together, approaching close to 50% DBE participation versus where we were 3, 4, 5 years ago at maybe 5%. So significant change. There's been a lot of focus. We've changed the model of how we deliver these services, a model that I think is not only enhancing the DBE participation, but is also improving the quality of service that we're providing to our customers.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. And Ms. Nash, correct me if I'm wrong, but the agency itself, the staffing company, is a minority-owned company as well?
The staffing company is, yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. If we are ready for the vote, let us go ahead and do that. Any other unreadiness? Are there any abstentions? Are there any no votes? Thank you very much. It passes unanimously. We will be presenting it at the next board meeting, Liz? For board action?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. And at this time, we will have a briefing regarding the SMS implementation by Dietrich Parham, Manager of Safety Management Systems.
Good morning, Madam Vice Chair Abdul Salam, Mr. Parker, and members of the Operations and Safety Committee. My name is Dedrick Parham, and I am the manager of SMS in the Department of Safety and Quality Assurance. The purpose of this briefing is to inform the Operations and Safety Committee of the safety management systems progress at MARTA and the impact to the board. SMS is an FTA requirement that is defined as a formal top-down organization-wide approach to managing safety risks and assuring the effectiveness of safety risk mitigations. SMS is how MARTA accounts for, mitigates, tracks, and educates employees on risks and hazards. Next slide. SMS is important because it's part of a new law governing the safety plans for transit agencies, 49 CFR 673. This is a federal law for all transit agencies across the country, not just MARTA. The rule also calls for involvement and accountability from the transit agency boards. Remember, SMS is a top-down approach. As board members, there are expectations for you to know the SMS principles. To assist in your learning, we have an internal SMS training that is required for all MARTA employees, including board members, located in MARTA Learn. We will address login assistance later in this presentation. You will have the opportunity to actually take out your cell phone, aim your phone's camera at the computer screen, and capture the QR code that is designated to help you with your responsibilities as a board member and learning the SMS. The SMS framework has 4 pillars: safety management policy, safety risk management, safety assurance, and safety promotion. Next slide. As I mentioned, SMS is a new requirement per the FTA. SMS flows from top down. Our new agency safety plan incorporates the SMS principles. The agency safety plan requires the signature of the accountable executive, the chief safety officer, and the board chair who represents the board of directors. It's also used to help minimize safety risks using appropriate resources. Next slide. This is a corrective action plan assigned during the triannual audit of MARTA's rail safety, executed by our State Safety Oversight Agency, GDOT, Division of Intermodal. This cap shows how the SSOA wants MARTA to show involvement from the Board of Directors as a part of SMS. We are pleased to say the MARTA Agency Safety Plan is approved by GDOT, and this cap has been submitted for closure. Next slide. So this is a section of the agency safety plan that shows the MARTA board's safety tasks. The board has review and approval responsibility for the agency safety plan, revision process, and the procurement process. This matrix also shows the board support responsibility for safety communication and promotion. Next slide. In preparation for new FTA requirements, MARTA rolled out SMS training to employees in April of 2020. MARTA has also created the position of Manager of Safety Management Systems, SMS. Our SMS implementation timeline shows MARTA received approval of our ASP from GDOT in October of 2020. We started an SMS implementation committee that meets bi-weekly. The committee consists of multiple departments, including rail and bus operations, MPD, Learning and Development, and of course, DSQA, Department of Safety and Quality Assurance. Our rollout in December informed employees of the agency safety plan and the anti-retaliation policies, both requirements of Parts 49 CFR 673. We created flyers, small banners, pocket brochures, and lanyard cards for employees. This effort began with the rail and bus operations. The Safety and Security Certification Committee was created, and they also meet weekly. This committee oversees the certification process on behalf of the Chief Safety Officer. DSQA team members are registered and participating in Transit Safety Institute courses, TSI. TSI is the educational branch of the FTA. Employees also receive the Public Transportation Safety Certification Training Program certification. We call it the 49 CFR 672 certification. That's a requirement per that rule. The ASP e-course is rolled out to employees through MARTA Learn. We want to ensure every employee receives the training on the ASP, the anti-retaliation policy, and how to identify, mitigate, and report hazards through the Safety First system and the safety hotline. MARTA is working with WSP Consulting to create hazard identification and risk assessment training. The training will be rolled out to employees in a phased approach, beginning with BSQA, then moving to operations. The training will begin in an e-course format. MARTA is also considering an active safety audit of the bus and rail programs. Next slide. So this slide shows our phased approach to SMS. The phases mirror the pillars of SMS. Phase 1, safety management policy. We executed the ASP, our agency safety plan, to include an accountability matrix and an update of ancillary documents associated with the agency safety plan. MARTA also created the SMS implementation plan. In phase 2, safety risk management, the phase we are currently in, MARTA is implementing activities to assist employees to better identify hazards and evaluate safety risks. To include a gap analysis of our hazard identification process, we have spoken about trainings. All trainings will be tracked and stored in the learning management system here, which is MARTA Learn. Phase 3, safety assurance. We monitor our safety performance through data collection and rules compliance. We will also utilize Microsoft Power BI dashboards. This is also where our change control and continuous improvement processes begin to be utilized. And phase 4, which is safety promotion, we conduct safety culture surveys, and we will improve the way we communicate safety data and initiatives. How will we do that? We will communicate the trends specifically with mode-specific hotspots, incident-specific bulletins on communication boards, and safety meetings. We want to utilize the way we ensure we do these to ensure the employees receive all the correct safety information. Next. So this is how we see SMS, a natural flow and progression, kind of like cogs in a clock. Safety management policy is how we review and finalize policies that account for safety and safety responsibilities of employees. Safety management educates employees on the safety management policies that have been written and strengthens employees' recognition of hazards, hazard mitigation, and hazard reporting. Safety assurance uses the data received during the safety risk management to ensure rules compliance and validate if mitigations are working. That's our continuous improvement. And we also want to look at ways to improve upon the actions that we've taken. And next, we have safety promotion, which communicates our findings from the safety assurance and communicates safety initiatives and training opportunities. Next slide. So, stated earlier, board members are expected to know the SMS principles. Well, MARTA has prepared SMS training to accommodate those expectations. And as promised, you can now aim your cameras at the screen and capture the QR code for further information and assistance. This QR code will allow you to access your individualized sign-in into the MARTA Learn platform. Once you scan the code, you will see a MARTA sign-in page. Sign in with your MARTA email and password, then you will see the MARTA Learn platform. Scroll to the SMS training as well as our agency safety plan and safety first reporting program e-course. So there are actually two trainings located in MARTA Learn that you can utilize with the SMS training and the agency safety plan and safety first program training.
Dedrick, may I just add a comment here that The QR code is there for your convenience, but we will have some other communications directly with you to make sure that you're able to access the information. So don't worry if you have problems with this QR code or need some additional help. We'll be working with Tyrene to make sure we get some more information out to each of the board members. And I can assure you I've completed the training, and it is it's relatively simple and you know, worthwhile, informative course. So thank you, Dedrick. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Yes, and the courses are meant to be specific, easy to follow, and you know, there are a couple questions, easy peasy. Next slide, please. All right, this concludes my briefing on MARTA SMS implementation. Thank you, have a great day. And I would now like to turn it over to our AGM if she has any closing remarks with regard to SMS.
Thank you, Dedrick. Thank you so much, great job. This is Gina Major, the AGM of Safety and Quality Assurance and the Chief Safety Officer for MARTA. And so we are certainly excited about SMS implementation and our progress thus far, and want to share that excitement with the board through active engagement. So the board's participation is important and meaningful to SMS's top-down approach that Dedrick mentioned earlier. And not only is it important and meaningful, but it is also required. So as Dedrick mentioned, and as Jeff also just mentioned, there are 2 classes that have been added to each board member's learning profile within MARTA Learn. And tomorrow, Ms. Tyrene Huff will reach out to board members to schedule and confirm your login credentials. I would like to personally thank each of you in advance for your participation and support of SMS, and remind everyone that at MARTA, we are safe by choice and not by chance. So,
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. I see that our chair of the committee has arrived. And Mr. Worthy, we have one item left. If you'd like for me to close out, that would be fine. If you'd like to take on the role, go right ahead. Where'd you go? Okay, well, we will move on. Thank you for the presentation. I think I found it very informative, and I know that the rest of the board members, like myself, will definitely do the part that we're required to do.
Thank you.
Finally, on the agenda is other matters, and there's one item listed that is the FY 2021 December performance indicators, and it's informational only. And if it's okay, we would like to just have each one of us go ahead and review that in our leisurely time, unless there's anything specific that, excuse me, Mr. Parker or anyone would like to say about it.
No, we will have updates periodically, like we did today with the with mobility, where we go into depth about each of the KPIs. So you will hear in future work sessions, or excuse me, committee meetings, an update on rail and bus KPIs and in alignment with the information that's available in your committee reports. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there's nothing further, we'd like to go ahead and adjourn this portion of the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Roberta Abdul Salam. Thank you very much. I'd like to call committee meeting. And we have a roll call of attendance.
Yes. Roberta Abdul Salam.
Present.
Robbie Ash. Stacy Blakely.
Present.
Jim Stewart.
Present.
William Floyd. Roderick Morrison.
Present.
Ryan Glover. Frida Harded.
Present.
Russell McMurray. Al Pond,
Present.
Catherine Powers, Rita Scott,
Present.
Reginald Snyder,
Present.
Christopher Tomlinson, Thomas Worthy.
Present.
There are 9 board members present.
Thank you. You have before you the minutes from the January 28th, 2021 Management Committee meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
Worthy moves.
Approval.
Second,
Worthy
Roberta.
Upon approved. I'm sorry, who's the second?
Roberta, second. Roberta.
Okay, Roberta has a second. It's been properly moved in second. Do I have any discussion? Okay, all those who are opposed to any changes to the minutes? Any oppositions to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, the minutes have been approved. The next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing award of a contract for the procurement of online benefits enrollment and administration services. It's RFP P43924. LaShondra Dawkins, Human Resource, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Chairman Frierson, Business Management Committee members, Mr. Srinath and Mr. Parker. I am pleased to be before you today to request your recommendation to the full Board of Directors to approve the resolution authorizing the award of a contract for the procurement of online benefit enrollment and administration services, RFP P43924, to Benalytics Consulting Group, LLC. Next slide, please. This contract has a 5-year term consisting of a 3-year base and 2 one-year options for a total of $3,406,120 funded with local operating funds. The price has been determined to be fair and reasonable based on the independent cost estimate and the competitive market and represents a 7% year-over-year increase in cost above our current contract adjusted for inflation. This is a recurring contract, and the contract includes a 12% DBE goal. Next slide. By way of background, on July 22nd, 2020, notice to proponents were sent to 14 vendors for the procurement of online benefits, enrollment, and administrative services. Notice of request for proposals was advertised on October 17th and 14th in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the Georgia Procurement Registry, the Georgia Local Government Access Marketplace, and on MARTA's website. 127 firms retrieved the online solicitation and/or purchased the CD. On the proposal deadline date of October 19, 2020, 9 proposals were received. Winston Benefits, Value-Based Healthcare Institute, Empyrean Benefit Solutions, Socova, which is our incumbent, Business Solver, Work Partners, Totem Solutions, Alight Solutions, and Benalytics Consulting Group. 5 of the proponents were deemed responsive and shared with the Source Evaluation Committee on November 17th. On December 1st, the Source Evaluation Committee reviewed and evaluated the proposals based on the established criteria. After the SEC's initial review and evaluation, 4 proposals were determined to be in the competitive range and invited to make oral presentations. Next slide, please. This slide will highlight for you the 9 proposals received, 5 that were responsive, and the 4 that we shortlist for oral presentations, which included Benalytics Consulting Group, Empyrean Benefit Solutions, Socova, again the incumbent, and Work Partners. Next slide. Consistent with the MARTA Act, the Source Evaluation Committee determined that it is in the best interest of the authority to enter into a contract with Benalytics Consulting Group for online benefits, enrollment, and administration services. Benalytics was founded in 2005 as a limited liability company. They are a minority business enterprise certified with the Georgia DBE program. They will also work with a subcontractor for some services such as the call center operations and fulfillment. But as the prime, Benalytics will perform approximately 55% of the services as a DBE. They are headquartered in Marietta, Georgia, with offices in Alabama, Florida, and California. Next slide. As the selected vendor, Benalytics will support the day-to-day administration of MARTA's Health and Welfare Benefits Program for approximately 4,300 represented and non-represented employees and 930 pre-65 years of age retirees and their families. The services provided under this contract include online benefits administration, which also incorporates housing our plan documents, the eligibility parameters, the premium structures, and provider information. Employee online enrollment capabilities, open enrollment management and fulfillment, an enrollment call center, ongoing dependent verification audits, and compliance efforts, including the Affordable Care Act employer mandate compliance and reporting, as well as COBRA management. These enrollment and administration services will apply to our healthcare-related benefit options, which include medical, dental, vision, basic and voluntary critical illness, our flexible spending accounts, life insurance, accidental death and dismemberment, short and long-term disability, as well as our voluntary legal services. Next slide. Through this procurement, Benalytics will replace an existing vendor in order to provide better customer service and enhanced employee experience and innovative technology through the PlanSource benefit platform. PlanSource is a cloud-based platform that allows employees to enroll in our benefits online via computer, a smart device, a mobile phone, or by way of the call center. An example of the innovative technology is that employees will be able to download the enrollment app to their smart device or mobile phone, then shop for their benefits similar to most online shopping experiences. Select their specific benefits based on eligibility criteria and upload required documentation to satisfy our enrollment rules. This is really one of the major enhancements because presently employees are usually required to bring in documents, original or copies, into the benefits office. This includes the ability to take a picture of their documents and upload on their mobile app. Additionally, once it is safe to have in-person interactions, our annual enrollment services will include on-site benefit enrollers who will be able to enroll employees one-on-one at various MARTA locations. Next slide. The estimated implementation timeline will be 14 to 18 weeks from the date of engagement. Therefore, we will use our existing vendor for the upcoming open enrollment, which is scheduled to run April 12, 2021 through May 7, 2021, and transition to the new vendor thereafter. Next slide. So in closing, I wish to restate our request that the Business Management Committee recommend to the Board of Directors approval of our resolution authorizing the award of a contract for the procurement of online benefit enrollment and administration services, RFP P43924, to Benalytics Consulting Group, LLC. Thank you for your time and consideration.
I'll move approval. Jim.
Okay, it's been approved by Jim. Can I get a second?
Second.
By Mrs. Harvard. Been moved in second. Are there any discussions? Hearing none, I call the question. All those who are opposed to the RFP, are there any opposition? Are there any abstentions to the RFP? Hearing none, the RFP has been approved. Thank you very much, Sandra.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing a modification in a contractual authorization for leasing, for licensing of various Microsoft products. This is P45841. Kirk Talbert, AGM Technologies. You have the floor, Kirk.
Thank you, Chair Frierson, Vice Chair Durrett, Mr. Parker, Mr. Srinath, and members of the Business Management Committee. This morning, I'm requesting approval of an agenda item to extend our current Microsoft licensing agreement. We have a one-year Microsoft licensing agreement in place that covers all the operational technology that we use for the agency, email, databases, cloud services. We have a second agreement in place that covers all the security components. And what we're asking for this morning is permission to extend the operational licensing agreement for a period of 3 months and to add $330,000 out of our approved operating budget to carry us to May 31st with the operational contract. The intent, and we are in the middle of doing a competitive bid on a single Microsoft licensing contract to combine both the security and the operational components into one that would begin on May 31st. So the request this morning is for approval to extend the existing Microsoft licensing agreement for a period of 3 months and a dollar amount of $330,000 to take us to the point where we can combine the two into a competitively sourced contract. This concludes my request for approval of this agenda item.
Thank you very much, Kirk. Appreciate it very much.
Alpine, move for approval.
Okay, it's been approved by Alpine. Can I get a second?
Jim Durrett, second.
Jim Durrett has seconded. All right. Are there any discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All those who are opposed to the resolution, are there any opposition to the resolution? Are there any abstentions to the resolution? Hearing none, the resolution has passed. Thank you very much, Kirk. Appreciate it very much. The next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the placement of excess workers' compensation insurance for a policy period from April 1st, 2021 through April 1st, 2022. Donna Jenkins, Director of Risk Management. You have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Frierson, Mr. Durrett, Mr. Srinath, Mr. Parker, and members of the board. The resolution before you today is a request to authorize the renewal of the authority's excess workers' compensation insurance policy for a one-year period. The policy is part of the authority's portfolio of property and casualty insurance, which provides coverage above specific dollar thresholds for various types of losses that result from our operations. Next slide, please. The purpose of my presentation is to provide the board with an understanding of the role of excess insurance in our program, the basics of workers' compensation in the state of Georgia, outline in broad strokes the main components of the authority's workers' compensation program, and finally to discuss the proposed renewal policy. Next slide, please. First, what exactly is excess insurance? It is simply a policy that provides limits in excess of an underlying policy or self-insured retention. Its sole purpose is to provide additional limits of insurance. Next slide, please. Second, I'll give you a high-level overview of the basics of the workers' compensation system in the state of Georgia. The system is regulated by the Georgia State Board of Workers' Compensation and by statute OCGA Title 34, Chapter 9. By definition, workers' compensation is an accident insurance program provided by employers that provides medical care and income benefits if an employee is injured on the job. As I stated previously, the system is highly regulated and the state board rules govern every aspect of how a claim is handled. Contested cases are handled within the trial division of the state board by administrative law judges that are appointed by the governor. All medical care provided under the statute is regulated by the fee schedule approved by the state board. Examples of two other important rules are the maximum weekly lost wage benefit and the maximum number of weeks an employee may receive temporary total disability benefits. As of July 1, 2019, the maximum weekly benefit amount is $675 per week. The weekly benefit amount is reviewed periodically by the state board and increases must be approved by the state legislature. And an employee may receive weekly payments if they are totally disabled from doing their job for a maximum number of 400 weeks or 7.6 years. Next slide, please. Third, I will outline the components of the authorities program, which includes how we fund our losses, claims administration, and other elements that focus on the delivery of medical care to injured employees and our return to work approach. MARTA has been a qualified self-insurer for more than 30 years. To maintain our certification as a self-insurer, we must have an excess insurance policy with statutory limits that sit above our retention. We retain the first $2 million on every claim. If the payout on a claim reaches this amount, then the excess policy would assume all additional payments on that case. To date, no claims have penetrated the retention. The claims administration is handled by an in-house staff of claims adjusters and a managed care provider, which I will more fully define in the following slides. Next slide, please. The medical part of our program is managed under a contract with Amerisys, a state board certified WCMCO or workers' compensation managed care organization provider. Services provided by the WCMCO include telephonic nurse case management on every claim, a full suite of medical cost containment services, and management of the medical provider network according to state board guidelines. Next slide, please. The medical cost containment services provided by the WCMCO are key to our program and include review of all medical bills in accordance with the state board fee schedule, professional and peer review, contracted preferred provider organization savings in addition to fee schedule savings, utilization review, and case management. And as the graph shows, over the last 5 fiscal years, utilization of these cost containment services has saved the authority $20,889,000 or 60% off of billed charges of $34.7 million. So it's a key cost savings component of our program. Next slide, please. Another key component of our program structure is our stay at work philosophy and formal modified duty program managed by the Office of Occupational Medical Services and Human Resources. During the pandemic, these efforts were suspended due to safety concerns for all employees and the all hands approach to managing a crisis response. Once the authority returns to new normal operations, efforts to place injured employees will resume. The goal of the program is to return employees to productive work as soon as possible after sustaining an on-the-job injury. The Modified Duty Coordinator in Occupational Medical Services strives to place injured employees with work restrictions and temporary modified duty tasks, ideally within the statutory 7-day waiting period. Keeping employees active in the workplace after an injury is good for their mental, physical, and financial health, and it is good for the authority because it reduces the duration and cost of lost time injury claims and provides all areas within the authority a pool of candidates to utilize for tasks where a need exists. Several other important aspects of the program include that it is formally defined in the collective bargaining agreement, section 24, paragraph 70. Tasks are temporary assignments, they are not permanent jobs, and the tasks are formally developed by the Occupational Medical Services staff in conjunction with all the operational areas. Overall, the modified duty program is a win-win for all authority stakeholders. Next slide, please. Fourth, I will go over our claims data for the last 5 fiscal years, including the number and types of claims and the cost. There are 2 types of claims in workers' compensation, medical only and lost time. The distinction is determined by whether the claim goes beyond the statutory 7-day waiting period. A medical only claim can involve only medical treatment and no days away from work, or it can involve medical treatment and 7 days or less away from work. As you can see in the medical only row in the table in the middle, we have handled a total of 2,110 claims with an annual average number of claims of 422, which is 72% of our total claim volume. A lost time claim involves medical treatment and 8 days or more away from work. Weekly lost wage benefits would commence on day 8. In the lost time row of the table at the top, you can see that we have handled 840 lost time claims with an annual average number of 168 or 28% of our total claim volume. Next slide, please. And this slide illustrates the cost of claims by type over the same 5-year period. So lost time claims have cost the authority $17,870,000, or 75% of total spend, with an average cost per claim of $21,275. And medical-only claims have cost $5,833,000, or 25% of total spend, with an average cost per claim of $3,341. Next slide, please. Finally, with respect to the renewal of the excess insurance policy, we are moving the inception date forward from March 12th to April 1, 2021, at an estimated cost for this extension of $14,500. The estimated not to exceed cost for the annual policy with the new term is $251,148, which is an increase in cost of 15%, or $32,758, for a total not to exceed cost of $265,648. I respectfully request the board's approval of this resolution. Next slide, please. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Don. Do you have any questions? No questions? Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
Jim Durrett will make the motion.
Okay, and Jim has approved it. I need a second.
Second, Stacy Blakely.
Okay, Stacy Blakely. Thank you, Stacy. All right, it's been properly moved in second. Are there any discussions? Hearing no discussions, all those who are opposed to the resolution, are there any opposition? Are there any abstentions to the resolution? Hearing none, the resolution has been approved. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Donna. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a briefing of our FY 2020 second quarterly financial highlights and financial key performance indicators. Raj, you have the floor, our Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Pryorson, and good morning, Vice Chair Durrett, members of the board, and good morning, Mr. Parker. My name is Raj Srinath. I'm the Chief Financial Officer with MARTA. Next slide, please. This is a summary of second quarter financial performance that's ending December 31, 2020. As you can see, both net revenues and net expenses are favorable compared to budget. The net revenues were favorable by about $11.9 million, and the expenses were favorable compared to budget by almost $40 million. So a combined favorable variance of about $51.6 million for 6 months ending December 30, 2020. On the next slide, I'll go through some of the highlights for the reasons for the surplus. Next slide, please. On the revenue side, predominantly there were 3 reasons for the positive or the favorable variance. The first one is the sales tax. We had anticipated a decline of about 6.5% in sales tax revenues compared to the forecast we received from Georgia State. However, the actual decline turned out to be about 1.5%. And the second reason for the favorable variance was we were able to draw down from the CARES Act funding a lot faster than we had anticipated. And last but not the least, we received some one-time credits on the alternative fuel tax. So those were the 3 primary reasons, and they were offset by obviously a reduction in the passenger revenues due to COVID-19. On the expense side, there were 2 major reasons for the favorable variance. One is the vacancy rate. We do have roughly about 9.5% vacancy rate, and that contributed to favorable variance in salary, wages, as well as commensurate benefit costs, which is your pension and the healthcare costs. And the second big component of the favorable variance were the contracted services. We provided fewer rides on our mobility services than we had budgeted, again, as a result of lower ridership because of COVID-19. Next slide, please. And because we were able to draw down on the CARES Act funds, we used only 14.7% of the sales tax revenues to fund our operations. Next slide, please. It's a pretty crowded chart. I'm going to focus on a couple of data points on this. The bar charts represent the ridership. The blue ones are the actual ridership for this fiscal year, and the gray bars represent the ridership for the last fiscal year, which is fiscal year 2020. And as you can see, the ridership has been down by about roughly 60% compared to last year's ridership. And likewise, the lines represent the fare revenues, which are also approximate 60% lower than last year's fare revenues. Next slide, please. On the overtime expenses, I'm going to turn this over to our Deputy CFO, Kevin Hurley. He'll provide a briefing on this. Kevin?
Yes, sir. Thanks, Raj. As you can see, this chart exhibits monthly overtime performance, and the gray line is looking at prior year. The red line is looking at the budget by month for FY 2021, and the blue line is our actual performance. So if you recognize the gray line, we saw an initial downward trend starting in July last year in 2019, and it has continued for the most part since that time. You can note the blue line actuals are continuing a negative trend. So this is very positive news. The overtime continues to move in the right direction.
Next slide, please. That concludes this portion of the presentations. If there are no questions, I'll move on to the two other slides which talk about some of the KPIs.
Okay, do we have any questions on the board? Okay, go ahead, Raj. Here you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next slide, please. This is a year-to-date trend of actual revenues and expenses. As you can see, both are trending favorably. The blue line at the top are the revenues, which is trending up nicely, which is very good. We have seen a slight uptick in sales tax revenue receipts, which is very good. And expense, which is the blue line, is relatively flat. Again, that's welcome news. Next slide, please. This is a trend of the sales and the ad valorem tax revenues. Again, the top line is the blue line, which is the actuals we are doing better than the budget. Just want to explain the two spikes there in September and November. That is because we received one-time revenue adjustment pursuant to certain audits and certain credits we received for the previous time period. Other than that, even if you normalize for that, the revenues are trending up compared to budget, which is the blue line below. And next slide, please. That concludes my presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions the members may have.
Okay. Thank you, Raj. Appreciate that very much. In your packet is some other information for the second quarter financial performance indicators. Ask the board members to all take a look at that. It shows some other trend charts and some other performance indicators concerning our operation. Are there any questions from the board members? All right. Well, thank you, Raj. I appreciate it very much. If there are no other questions, no other comments, I'd like to conclude this meeting and consider it to be adjourned for the Business Management Committee meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Have a great one.